Hey guys, it's Vash. So here's a speed code from a hackathon that I recently did. If you don't know what a hackathon is, it's pretty much where you code. It's an event where you code for 24 or 36 hours, depending on an event. You just go for 24 to 36 hours, creating an application of your choosing. That's pretty much all it is. You can create a game, some unique application, really just whatever you want. So there's a speed code for that. I'm just gonna talk in the background while the speed code runs, just on some extra information. So the project I did was a new way to code static web development, static websites, right? Just HTML and CSS, right? And pretty much what I did was create this new file type called CHTML, stands for Composite HTML. And pretty much what it has is include tags where you have a file attribute in that tag, and that file attribute essentially points to another CHTML file, which will essentially copy the content, extract the content from that file, and then insert it where the include tag is, right? So a simple concept, but what it allows you to do is pretty much be able to have one component easily copy to multiple HTML pages. Before, you would have to copy, if you had a component that was mutual across many HTML pages, you would have to copy it on each page, which is really inefficient. And if you had to change one thing on one page, you would have to change it on every single page. So what this allows is you can just change it in that file that the include tags are pointing to. You just change it there, then it will reflect on each page that you included on. Okay, so this will make static web development a lot simpler, a lot more organized, and a lot more efficient. I know there's things called Jade for Node.js, or for Spring there's something called the project tiles, which does pretty much the same thing, except those, number one, you need a backend to be able to do that, and really indirectly the audience, well, not audience, but like the purpose I'm doing this is for just static web development, just HTML and CSS, right? And then also for those, you need like this kind of links into what I just brought up, but you need a framework behind it. With this, you just have to code the CHTML file, and then you pretty much feed it to a tool, which I've also created in this hackathon, and it will pretty much return back a deployable HTML file, not CHTML file, the one I just stated, because a browser can't really read that. So you need a tool to kind of convert between CHTML and HTML, right? I did include the presentation at the end of this speed code. Right? I did include the presentation, the hackathon presentation, pretty much presenting to the judges my idea, which will kind of go a little bit in depth. It will be better explained, right? Okay, so that's really my idea. If you want a better description, I'll have a description in the description below. Right? I'll have a little summary in the description below. Right? So about the speed code, I do, if you haven't noticed already, I do have little tags in the bottom left. One is for what I'm currently doing at the time, and another one is my Twitter, right? So if you want, you can follow me on Twitter. I post a bunch of Twitter stuff. So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. If you don't mind, please follow me on Twitter, and please comment any suggestions you have or any comments. I really do appreciate them. So, yep, see you guys later. Bye.
Okay, so before I start, I'm just going to say a little anecdote. So I remember what it was like to be a static web developer. I also remember the struggle it was to become a static web developer, having to copy and paste several components from one page to another. If you change one component, you have to change it for all pages. And simply, if you just pull up an HTML file, you're just horrified just because it's so unused. What if there was one way to fix a solution, to make HTML and static web development more modular? What if there was a way to make static web development simple and organized? I provided a solution for that. And that solution is creating a whole new file type called .CHTML, which stands for Composite HTML. What Composite HTML provides is include tags, which will have a file attribute that will point to a file and pretty much get the stuff within it and then include it within the file. Let me give you a tour. So here's just an example of a simple CHTML directory. So as you can see here, we have a CHTML root page, as you can see defined by the page root. Yep. And then we have two include tags, which has a file attribute that points to another CHTML to essentially include it within this one. So if you go to the body CHTML file, it will contain even more include tags, such as a header, a navbar, whatever, content, footer, and scripts. Right? And then if you go to those, so I'm just going to go to content. It will have the actual HTML code. Right? Yep. So let me kind of illustrate a picture of that on how CHTML works. Right? Essentially, CHTML is just like a tree. Right? You have the page root, which includes the head and the body, and then those includes even more, and then so on and so forth. Right? And then you can pretty much compile it into one big file.
So can I ask what you wrote the compiler?
I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so yeah. So the problem with CHTML is that you can't really deploy it to a browser just simply can't read CHTML files. So what you have to do is create a compiler that will pretty much take the CHTML directory and essentially convert it to a deployable HTML file, right? So I built a web application to essentially do this analysis, but it's a web application. You can do it in just any kind of tool that will do the analysis will do. So here's what I created. You can upload files right here, and then just upload whatever HTML file is within the directory, right? Just for time's sake, I already uploaded all of them. Right. And then you can press the compile button, which will tell the server to essentially convert from the CHTML directory into the HTML file, right? And then to be able to receive that, you can just press download, which will provide the HTML page. And then if you click that, we'll have the final product. Right? As you can see, Golden Pirate Dragon.
I'm always a fan of web pages about Golden Pirate.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Same here.
I was just browsing web pages about Golden Pirate.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. So. Okay, so if you look at the base source, then for some reason my right click isn't working, but if you look at it, it will include pretty much all the content.
So this allows you to include multiple, like a component multiple times,
exactly.
And only have one source file.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
So you might be asking, if you're familiar with web development, well, hey, there's something called Jade for Node.js, or if I'm a Spring MVC developer, there's something called Apache Tiles for having essentially doing the same thing, right? So the question is, what's the difference between my solution and those? Right? What's the difference between CHTML and having frameworks like Jade for Node.js or Apache Tiles? Right? Well, really the difference is within the statement itself. Okay, Apache Tiles and Jade is a framework, which means that you're required to have external code to do all this for you. With CHTML, you just write the CHTML directly, you provide it to some tool, and then it'll just provide the HTML back to you. So it's a really simple, easy way to do this. Right? So really the value is make static web development simple, more organized. And that's kind of what I provide here.
You're kind of attacking it as a standard problem.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Right.
I like that.
Yeah.